Hello, welcome to episode 5 of the Wet & Git course. Today, we'll turn our About page from looking like this into looking like this. To obtain the text we need for the About page, you can head to the sample website numbersarefun.netlify.app, link is also in the description, and you can copy the text here. So first of all, let's deal with the PUG file. So let's delete all of that except the image, because we'll need the image later on. And we can start by having an h3 tag saying numbers are beautiful. And then another small p tag for the author. And then h2 tag for the header. And then p tag for the body. And then in the reference book part, let's do a p tag for every line. Next, in the styles part, we will also delete all the nonsense we've made and except the photo caption, because having it gray is suitable, I think. And then we can run npm run build to see the result. This is what we have got so far. And one fine detail you might realize is that this paragraph is separated into 3 lines. And when we copy it, it is indeed in 3 lines. However, when it is displayed on the web page, it is one whole paragraph instead. It is not split into lines at the places we want. So if you can recall what we have learned, we have to explicitly state where we have to make the line break using a BR tag within the paragraph tag. So right here, let's add a BR tag before the please, and then another one before enjoy. And you can see it is now in 3 lines. The second small detail you might notice is that the book name, project name, and the topics are larger than the author and publisher. We could do this by editing our abouts.less file. So we could add a new class, .larger text. And then within that, we can increase the font size. The best unit for font size is REM, and a normal p tag will have a font size of 1 REM. So let's make this 1.25 REM so that it is slightly larger, but not as large as the header tags. So we are adding this class into the book name paragraph, and also the project name and the topics, but not on the author and publisher. And this is the result. And there's one very essential skill that I want to teach you before we move on, is that we can use the developer tools given by browsers. I'm using Brave, which is very similar to Chrome. So you could highlight this paragraph and then click inspect. And you can see it points to the p tag that is responsible for that visible element. And at the same time, when I move my cursor across the right hand side, it shows the corresponding visible element on the left. And you could also see the styles applied to the element. For example, you can see the increased font size that is applied to the p tag, and there are also some default styles that we will talk about later. We could add temporary styles specific to the element right here. For example, we could do color red. This style part is very convenient for testing, because after you have experimented with styles and you found the most suitable styles to add to the element, you could copy the styles into your less file and it will become permanent. And what I mean by temporary is that when you refresh the page, the styles you have defined using the Chrome developer tools are gone. And you can see the book name returns to black. So we could also experiment with different font sizes. For example, let's change the font size to 2 REM for the larger text class. And you can see it is definitely too large because it is even larger than the headers. So 1.25 REM should be suitable. And note that we do not need to worry about changing back to 1.25 here because what we can do is just to refresh the page and it is back to where we started. Okay, so let's use the rest of the time today to code for the most difficult part of the About page. That is the great quote, "Numbers are beautiful." So you notice there's a gray background that surrounds both the H3 tag, numbers are beautiful, and the P tag, that is kitprof. So I think one very useful thing is to surround both the H3 tag and the P tag in a div tag with a class, that is quote, so that we could group the two elements together and code the gray background for them. And note that for Pug, the default tag for any classes and IDs is the div tag, so we actually do not need to write div here, and just say .quote. So we can go back to our website, and this time we'll try our best to use the developer tools to help us. So we can click on the quote and inspect, and it will bring us to the part of the code that is responsible for the quote, and we can click on the div tag and code for the background color. Alright, so let's add a background color with background-color, and we can say, let's try the color code AAA, and check with the original website, and you can see the original website has a darker shade. So let's change to a darker color, that is maybe 888, and I think it is the same color. So we can leave it there. And remember, if I click refresh right now, this style will be gone. So what I have to do is to copy that, and then open Visual Studio Code, and let's add the style to the last file permanently. So we'll add a style for the quote class. So we add .quote followed by curly braces, and then paste the background color. Hit save, and then after running npm run build, we refresh the page, and you can see on the right it is permanently here. So actually we can also add styles that are suitable for both the H3 and the P tag right here at the div tag with class quote. So let's add color, which changes the text color to white. Okay. So this is a demonstration that you can use either an RGB color code with 6 hexadecimal digits. The 888 is actually a shorthand for 6 consecutive 8s. For common colors, you could also try to write them out. The full list can be found when you type in color and then enter, and you can see a list of the common colors. So this is also what we want. So we're adding color white to our list file. And it is also now permanent. Next, we realize that there's some spaces between the text and the surrounding elements. So what we will do is to try to add it right now. There are two ways of doing so. One is margins and one is paddings. Both of them are written very similarly in code. However, they look very different visually. So to demonstrate the difference, what I will do is add paddings and margins to the same element. So right now, I will try to add a very large margin on top of the gray quote. So I'll write margin and then colon and followed by 4 numbers representing the top margin. So it will be a very large margin of 4 rem, and then the right margin, which is 0, and then the bottom margin, which is 0, and the left margin, which is 0. So you can see you can expand the margin, and you can see margin top is now 4 rem, and there's no margins on the right, on the bottom, and on the left. And at the same time, I'm going to add a very large padding at the bottom of the gray quote. So I'll do padding. Remember, note that the sequence is top, right, and bottom. That is where we want to add the padding. So we'll add 4 rem as well, and then left, no padding. So, and the difference is very obvious right now. As you can see, margin does not extend the background color while padding does. So in order to achieve the effect here, with the gray background extending from the numbers of beautiful quote, we need a padding. So these two are not needed, so we'll refresh the page and they're gone. And now we could properly write padding. So we add the top padding. 1 rem would be a little bit more appropriate because 4 rem is too large. And we could copy it 4 times, representing we add 1 rem of padding at both top, right, bottom, and left. However, to simplify things, we could actually just write 1 rem once, and it already means adding 1 rem on all sides. So you can extend that, and you can see
padding top is 1 rem, right is 1 rem, etc. So this is actually what we want, and so we'll copy it and paste it in the list file again. Okay, and finally, just a minor detail is that these edges are rounded, but while this one doesn't have the rounded edges, so we'll add them. So actually for these specific styles, I don't know the exact keyword for that as well. So what I'll do is do a quick Google search, and you can see the correct keyword is border-radius, and we'll see how many px is suitable. And you can see 5px is not obvious at all, so maybe we'll add it to 10px, and it looks good. So we'll add this to the quote class finally. And I think this is all styles for the quote class alone. And we'll move on to adding individual styles for the h3 tag and also the p tag. So we'll move on to the h3 tag. So one very easy and obvious thing you can notice is that the h3 tag is centered while the p tag is right aligned. So we could easily add this easily by text align center and also text align right respectively. So the question might be where to add it. One way is to add an ID or class specifically for the h3 tag, something like this. And however, it is obviously quite clumsy, and eventually you will end up with a lot of class names and ID names all around the place. However, we could not just say h3 and p respectively, because it refers to all h3 and p tags in the about page. However, we could also use nested styles, which is we can put these few lines right inside quote. So you could hover on the h3 and you can see it is styling for h3 tags inside the quote and p tags inside the quote respectively, which is what we wanted, and it's just a lot cleaner than having a lot of class and IDs. And finally, the h3 tag is italic. So I'm actually not quite sure again, so I'll just do a Google search again. And now you can see font style italic is what we wanted. So we could actually add directly here if you're certain what you're doing. So, and there you go. And okay, after comparing with the original website, I believe we will need a little bit more space between the quote and the bottom text. What we will do is to add a bottom margin to the quote. So we will do, so we could of course do margin and then again top, right, bottom on rem and then left. But however, you can see there are a lot of zeros. So alternatively, you could do margin hyphen bottom 1 rem and it does the same trick. So it looks much more better. So we'll copy it right here. And I think that's it for today. And you should be very proud of yourself that you completely styled a page and it looks much more better than 10 minutes before. Finally, it is routine to push your code to GitHub whenever you have done something. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.